All right. Well, welcome back to our Simple Healthy Life podcast. You guys know the drill. And this particular time, I've been really finding this interesting because it has been quite some time that I have been wondering, been thinking about. The question is, are we really as divided as the world would tell you we are? Better question. Are we really as divided as the news would tell us we are? Are we really as divided as the television would tell us we are? Your social media feed, like it's all the media, all of the ways we consume media, all seem to be pointing us that we're like very divided internally, especially politically speaking. But then also like from a country to country perspective, like, the Chinese this and the Iranians that and the this and that. And it's like, then we have the World Cup, right? 48 countries all come to the place, come to America, come to Mexico, and all you hear is all of these stories about people finding out that these other cultures are full of good people, full of people that just want to come and watch soccer and watch their team and root. And I just keep thinking like, it can't be that way. It doesn't add up to me. It's almost like the intentional division is just a made up thing to keep our attention, to keep us pointed in a direction that helps somebody, rather than like, it's almost like divide and conquer.
Sure.
And do you see what I'm saying? Do you feel that at all?
Yeah, I think there's two truths here. The first truth is that it does kind of feel, it does feel that we're divided, right? And I would suggest that it is clear that we are more lonely now than probably ever before. The statistics are pretty clear on that. But intrinsically, are we that different? No. And anytime you come together with a group of people, any people, and there's like a common thread of interest, that it kind of reminds you. It reminds you like, oh yeah, we are kind of all the same.
Yeah.
We have way more in common than we do difference.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And almost even more than that, it's almost like even if we are divided, quote unquote, on a specific topic, that doesn't even matter. Right. It doesn't even come up. Like you don't. It doesn't have to. It's not like you go to the World Cup game, you're sitting next to somebody from Norway, and you're like, hey, what do you think about the mayor of New York, right? Like, well, I don't know anything about the mayor of New York. Well, let me tell you about this. Like that's just not even a thing that happens. It's like almost like a made up reason to keep people focused on something or pointed in a direction. I've been lucky enough to travel, and I was in Mexico, interestingly enough, when swine flu was a thing. It's 2008, so that's a long time ago. But our news media told us, you can't go to Mexico. Everybody in Mexico is got swine flu, and you're, no, not the case. Didn't happen. Wasn't that way at all, right? And then Italy, Greece, like Europe, all over. Every single person I met, with no exceptions, was awesome, nice, intelligent, interesting, and the people that didn't want to meet me didn't. It wasn't like, but every day you flip open your phone, and there's some story about how this person from this country, they hate America, or they're this or that, or something that is that is divisive on purpose. And I just feel like there's so many opportunities for us to recognize this and turn our attention to where we want.
Mm. Well, it's obviously super important. They've done these studies where they look at meaning and purpose over time, right? They ask people, like, do you have meaning in your life, right? Well, I mean, we're social creatures, so like one of the fundamental drivers of meaning is connection, right? I don't think that's a profound statement, but since 2008, that's been pretty much exponentially increasing, and so then it's funny, 2008, but you think, well, what happened in 2008? And that was exactly when smartphones started becoming like a lot more popular, right?
Yeah.
Their capacities increased during that time. And so we just have more information, right? And, with so much information, we've talked about it plenty of times, but what are marketers kind of faced with? Well, the fact that the negative bias is really strong. Negativity bias is really strong. So, sensational stories really are the ones that engage us most because they're scary and they're emotional, and it probably is intentional that they do that, right? Of course, why wouldn't they? If they make money, if these marketers and whoever, politicians or whatever it might be, if they're benefiting from more sensational, divisive stories, then why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they engage in that? Why wouldn't they have active campaigns to make it seem that way?
Well, they certainly do. And here's the thing that's interesting. A group, I've been studying a little bit about group dynamics for my own purposes and just because I find it interesting, but a group that feels to the same way operates the same way, and they become predictable. And isn't that what marketers want? You want predictable behavior. Okay, if I do these things, I'll get this feeling from a group of people, and then that feeling will drive this behavior, and then we can, a means to an end, right? Then we can do all of this to get them to purchase whatever we want, or keep them in an elevated state of fear, frustration, divisiveness long enough. This group will eventually claw on to something that we want, a new idea, a new this, a new that. And it's almost like, I guarantee everybody listening to this podcast right now, when they open up their social medias, at some point they're going to see something quickly in short order that triggers them, makes them feel a certain way. And instead of thinking, oh man, that's this or that's that, or those people or them, or, all of that. Instead, I want people to start to think like, who benefits from me feeling this way right now? And it's probably 2 or 3 layers deep, right? It wouldn't be easy to just be like, oh, it's this person or that person. Like, I think there's somebody, there's a marketer out there, there's a group out there that's trying to get you to feel a certain way. And it works. It works all the time. It works on me. It works on you. It works on all of us because we end up feeling divided. We end up feeling frustrated. We end up feeling a certain way. I haven't thought about it long enough or figured out what my behavior is afterwards, but it's probably predictable.
Well, yeah, and I think I've said it plenty of times, but I think we practice emotions, right? And so I think we get better at certain emotions with time. I think, to me, it seems obvious. Perhaps it doesn't seem, obvious to everyone else, but I think the more often you're feeling anxious, the better you are at just like get right into that state. I think the more often you're depressed, the easier it is to slip right into it. The more often you're joyful, the easier it is to kind of exude that, right? There was, I forget exactly where I heard this, but I just think it's such a simple concept, but it gets me thinking. And it's kind of like the idea that somewhere in the world, someone decided, I'm going to be the most joyful person I could be. And that person somewhere is probably the most joyful, optimistic, like high energy person just based on a decision. There's probably, if we could actually measure that, which obviously it's like kind of is an impossible task, but somewhere out there, someone has decided to do just that. And they've practiced that feeling, that energy, that whatever more than anyone else. And they're there. They're out there, the most joyful person in the world based on a decision. Obviously it's not based on circumstances, because if it were the case that most joyful number one, ranked person in joy in the world, if it were the case, then the formula would be very simple. You just follow in the footsteps. Okay, well, you have this much money and this much friends and whatever, right? But it's clearly a decision. And I just think about that because I think it's funny that, there's so out there somewhere is someone just practiced that emotion, and they've gotten really good at it. But yeah, I think the implications, the larger implications that you're suggesting is, when you're confronted with, quite frankly, like negative news on a regular basis, you're practicing those negative emotionality. Some people are a lot more, in terms of like traits, some people do have more trait-like propensity to negative emotionality. So they're the ones that get really messed up by this, obviously. And you see it, right? The people who you talk to and they're like, did you see what was on the news? And they're like, they can't get out of it, right? It's just the most engrossing thing. I've met people legitimately who I talked about like the most joyful person. I've probably met some of the most like opposite people too. And it's just kind of, it's a little sad. I feel real bad.
Yeah. It all, what you're saying is essentially it's coming down to choice,
So.
right? But if you ask someone that's on, almost like inherently, if you ask someone that's on the joyful side, what they'll tell you is choice. If you ask someone that's on the negative side, what they'll tell you is circumstance. Right? It just keeps happening that my circumstances keep being this way. I just keep noticing the negative. I just keep being thrown into the negative. I just keep having these bad things happen to me. It's always raining on my days off. Versus, no, I'm choosing to be happy today. I'm choosing this today. This is a choice for me, and today I'm going to choose to be my best self, to be smiling. Funny thing, just about aside, I don't know if I ever told you the story, but when I first started getting into running, and as you know, I'm not a runner, so I would go down to the canal.
More of a runner than me.
Oh, thank you. I would go down to the canal, and I would practice my smile. I swear to God, I would smile. I would literally keep my head up, my eyes up, and I would smile at everybody that I ran by. And I was practicing. I was intentional. I was like, I don't think I can't, I wasn't like, I was like side smiling and then like, or like big smiling, or, you know what I mean? I was just like intentionally smiling at people. And that exercise, and I did this a lot. It wasn't like a one-time thing. This was like pretty consistently. It kind of got me through my runs. But man, I would tell you that I got so many reactions. And there were so many different reactions. It was a lot of times I got a smile back. A lot of times I got like a look away. Like this person's looking at me and smiling. Whoa, And the good thing for me is I was running, so like it was a small window of time. I'm not running next to somebody smiling. I'm just passing them. Got some giggles, flustered people, but people aren't used to that. They're walking, they're doing their thing, and all of a sudden a total stranger is just smiling at them. But that helped me understand that I could practice being joyful. I could practice gratitude. I could practice smiling. I could practice and it wasn't about if anybody was smiling back. It was about me practicing to be who I am, best version of myself, smiling and happy.
Right. And that has to be, it's hard, but that has to be intentional. I think when people are kind of like very engrossed in that, the more negative side of media, say, it's not necessarily like wrong either, because you kind of, get engaged in like activism and like, oh, these people are so oppressed and, we're doing so bad and capitalism this and, communism that and China this and China that, whatever it ends up being, right? I think a lot of people are just looking for a sense of purpose, right? And it's not wrong to be like, well, there's some harm happening and I want people to know about this so that, maybe change happens, right? And, it's like commendable. And there's a part of that that's commendable.
Well, they say that, and I was reading this study, people that consume this type of media that we're talking about, they believe that the other side, the other group, is 30% or more extreme than they actually are. So like, the us versus them, like we're us, we're not extreme. This is what we think. This is how it is. The other side is like, they're the extreme ones. They're and it's like 30%. I don't know how they label 30%, but they're the strange extremists, and we're the centrists all the time. Like we understand both sides and we get it. Like this is our group. But to your point, it's like now you have a group. Now you have a purpose. Oh, I could be part of this group. What you're not realizing is now you're easily manipulated. Right. They don't even have to worry about manipulating you, the individual. They can just manipulate you, the group, because you, the group, is going to act. You're going to feel a certain way because they've built it into the system. And now because you feel a certain way, you become predictable.
Right. And I mean, you're not even considering really the people. I guess that's the whole point of the original point that you brought up is that, we're so alike and, behind computer screens or even in our cars, it's this person's an idiot. Oh, yeah. But then like the second you see their face, you're like, maybe they're not so bad. Maybe they're just having a bad day or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Right? But
especially the car. It's so wild to think about. That's a great point. Like everybody's an idiot in the road. Yeah. If you're not driving exactly the way I want you to, exactly far enough away at exactly the speed, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
I'm relatively zen in most of my daily activities besides for the road. You do one wrong thing and it's like the end of the world.
I got a funny one for you because it just happened. It was Saturday. Yeah. Saturday. I was coming down 28, 2 lanes merge into one. I'm in the front spot. This guy in a truck, like I see him on my right hand side, and like I think he's gonna try to like go around me before they always do before we merge or whatever. And like he kind of like pulls up beside me, and then like I see him in my rearview mirror, and he kind of like looks at me, and I kind of look at him, and I'm like, what was that all about? And then like not kidding, maybe like 100 yards past where the 2 lanes merge, I'm taking a left into the grocery store, so I just take my left, and he takes a left too. I'm like, oh, let's see what this is all about, right? And of course I'm like on edge, and nothing really happened at all. And then I get out of my car, he gets out of his truck. And we both went 2 separate doors, never said a word to each other. Nothing, it was very anticlimactic. Nothing happened. But for at least a moment or two, I'm like, this dude's the worst person in the world. What's he trying to do? Go around me? And the other guy's like, what's this dude cutting me up? And like literally nothing actually happened. But it was just like you said, like, oh man, he's an idiot. He's driving a truck that is going to pull up next to me. I don't know. It was so weird.
It's so funny. Yeah. I mean, that happens every time. Like someone like stops a little short for me or makes a left turn into a place. I'm like, you shouldn't be going. don't go to that.
It's so weird. I think we all feel that way though.
Yeah.
I definitely, you said the word they and them, right? Almost like as soon as you find yourself using those words, I think we have to think about it, right? Because the example, the easy example is like China, right? 2 billion people. Mm-hmm. But we're supposed to believe that the Chinese are our enemy. They don't like us. They're trying to take over America or whatever, right? Or Russia, the communists, the people that are Russia. Like, I don't know. There's a bunch of Russians that live around here. I've talked to all of them. They're awesome every time. I go to the Russian bath. They're cool dudes. But we would believe that them over in Russia hate us.
Yeah.
And what we found out now with the World Cup, and from the other people's perspective, not ours, is that they're like, oh my God, Americans aren't what we've been told. They were welcoming and enjoyed our company. And, you know, we're from Boston. And during the World Cup, we got to see the Scottish basically take over Boston. Super cool. And like all good, you know, no crazy stories of like how all these Scottish people were terrible. It was just the opposite. It turned out that the Scots are hilarious and love to drink and party just like the Bostonians. I could literally say to you and just make a joke like, good thing they weren't Irish, right? Because isn't that like the thing about how the Irish are like drunks and fight and argue and all this stuff? But like that's an example of the way that we have been manipulated into thinking, oh, that's them. That's what they do. That's the way they are. That culture does this.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about sports and all the above, I suppose, is that maybe there's a natural part of us that likes that competition. Maybe there is a little bit of like us versus them kind of built into us. I don't think that's like a super far-fetched thing to believe, right? Given our roots, but to play that, right? Even in the World Cup, I haven't been to a game or anything like that, but I've had a couple people like tell me about it, and they'll say that they get to the game and it's first like, it's kind of playful banter, one side versus the other, playful banter in the audience, right? And then at the end, they're all like, they all get together, they hug, they do the thing, right? And so, that like banter is kind of something that we enjoy, that us versus them is a part of us does seem to like that, but ultimately only in good spirits, right? It's the thing that people find very abstract, I guess, about like mixed martial arts, right? When they're like beating the crap out of each other and then they come at the end and they hug. And to someone who does it, it's very obvious because you're kind of playing. It's very serious play and it's the implications are great, but it's all for the sports, for the love. I do jiu-jitsu because I love jiu-jitsu, not because I hate the person I'm rolling with, right?
Right.
I actually love the people I roll with, right? But for someone who doesn't understand that, it seems very foreign.
For sure. I mean, ultimately, we're tribal, right? I think that's and it's what you were saying earlier, like we know inherently that we have these certain feelings towards the group, right? My family versus your family. Like it's my family. Like we're tribal. But if that's true, which we know it is, and we know there's a lot of smart people thinking this stuff up, we're being played. We're being played against. We're being played one versus the other, like literally being played. And I think there's just a lot of holes in our game when it comes to like noticing that, acknowledging it, seeing it. So because I was studying this and trying to figure it out, I stumbled into this guy. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and you actually brought him up before. This guy, Edward Bernays. For the audience, Bernays lived, he actually just died in Cambridge in 1995, but he was like 103. So whatever that puts him, like 1891, something like that. So from the 1891 to 1995, so long life. Essentially,
by the way, that wasn't just died, that was 31 years ago.
That's more than the other day. It's not quite the other day.
Not quite the other day.
Yeah, that was okay. Fine. Wow. Okay. Yes. I was in high school. Not quite. No, I was in middle school. That sounds better.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So anyway, so this guy who died 31 years ago. Wow. He earned the nickname the father of public relations. Okay. So essentially what this guy did is he studied 3 French philosophers that all studied group dynamics, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not group dynamics, but like tribalism,
policy making of some kind, campaigns.
Essentially, he started by studying groups and then realized that there was a way to manipulate the group. And he wrote the formula out as to how to manipulate a group. Okay, he actually wrote this book in 1928, and it was it actually got picked up and was used very heavily through World War II, through from the Germans. The Nazi Party used this book. Meanwhile, he's using the book as well, and I'll get into the book in a second. But so what he said was, if you want to manipulate or if you want to influence or change groups, you find or create an expert through means, whatever means necessary. You get that expert to say what you want them to say, and then you disseminate this information across all media. Okay? Those are the 3 steps. That's it. And once it's out there long enough, the people, the group that you have been manipulating, will start to believe it was their own idea. And once that becomes a thing, then you're done. You did it. You've managed the group to do whatever you want. Now, the craziest part about this for me is when you think about it, he also believed that this is exactly how democracy should work. And it's how it does work, quite honestly. When we think about democracy, right, the words free and fair elections, right, all of these opportunities, my vote, my choice, my this, I get to decide who and what and why and all these things. But fundamentally, at its core, at its very beginning, it's about being manipulated.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's framed as the strongest ideas win out, but that doesn't mean that the truest ideas do.
Yeah, exactly. It means the ones that the most people have been influenced by, have been have been given, prodded, pushed. So, like, example. So he wrote this book, and then World War II breaks out, and they our government hires him to essentially propagandize the American people into thinking, Uncle Sam needs you. It's us versus them. We're going to do these things, and that's the Uncle Sam posters and all of this stuff, right? So that's a pretty extreme example. Another example, and one that that's actually I'm interested in your opinion on this because it's a nutrition example. He's the guy. He gets hired by this company that wants to sell more pork. Okay, he goes and finds an expert, one doctor, and had this doctor reach out to 4,500 other doctors, okay? Which is wild if you really think about it, because in like 1950, I don't even know how you communicated with 4,500 other doctors.
Probably
right?
made up, but
Yeah, right. And the question was simply this: is a lighter breakfast better or a heavier breakfast better? Right. Okay. And the answer they were looking for, because they were trying to sell pork, was a heavier breakfast is better. Well, fast forward, that becomes the American breakfast is bacon and eggs. Mm-hmm. No doctor of nutrition that was like, well, we eat bacon and eggs in the morning because of X, Y, and Z, or this is what it does for your health. None of that. But here we are. I'll make sure I get 80-something years later, not 50, 80-something years later. And what is every breakfast place in the country has bacon and eggs. Mm-hmm. Nobody, not one person, maybe one person, is thinking to themselves, is this even a nutritional breakfast? Is this what I should be eating? Is this like a good thing for me? It's like, no, this is what we eat. It's bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Right. I've been pretty open about how I dislike nutritional guidance, just kind of in general, because it's very susceptible to that. It's just the nature of the system, right? The nature of, the fact that no one really cares about funding nutritional studies except for food companies, right? It's always been like that. And the same kind of dynamic of the most charismatic ideas win out. I mean, yeah, that pervades science too. And there's no real way around that. I'm not necessarily saying it's like evil, malicious, or whatever. It's perhaps a little misguided, but that's exactly what happened with Ansel Keys. He was a doctor. He was a doctor who looked at nutrition and its implications but he wasn't the most thorough researcher. You know, he had a couple all right designs, so study designs, and he had a couple big ones, a Seven Nation study, whatever it might have been. But he was just very charismatic. He was very charismatic. So his kind of ideas, they preceded his evidence in a lot of ways. And so he would share the ideas, find some evidence to kind of like back it up, and then share them. He was very charismatic, was good at sharing, disseminating his ideas. They weren't necessarily wrong sounding ideas either. They all made sense. And he's not necessarily, again, he's not a bad person for having the ideas, but it's kind of the problem is that then way back when early 1900s is that these ideas became kind of like settled in some sense. They became settled by a group of people who are like, yep, that's absolutely 100% true. Here's the evidence. And then people move on. They take that as a fundamental building block. And then we don't ever revisit it. We just kind of build upon that. And the problem is like, I mean, that's a long time ago.
Right.
Early 1900s. And we're still having problems with the very same disease that they were, cardiovascular disease. It hasn't gotten any better. So perhaps that wasn't right.
Right.
But no one actually thinks about that.
Yeah. Oh, and once it gets, you hear me say this all the time. Once it gets one generation in, it's law. It's just right. It's just the way it is.
Right.
And it's very simple and easy to say. Like, think about what I just told you. Find or create an expert, get them to say what you want them to say, and then disseminate it across all media. Once it becomes what your parents told you to do as a kid, guess who the expert is? Them. Guess what they're saying? Whatever they were essentially told or created to say. And your media is essentially you, them. That you're kind of all of it. Mm-hmm. So now it becomes part of your own belief system. And then Jesus, an additional generation later, before you know it, that's just the way it is. We just eat bacon and eggs for breakfast in the morning. Women smoke cigarettes because this is another thing he did. It's called the Torches for Freedom, like trying to get more women to smoke cigarettes. Women smoke cigarettes as a way to gain their own independence. That's just the way it is. And you just fast forward, and if we can look it up and see that this is true, this is like what happened. He wrote the book to do this. Then you got to figure everybody else could look it up. And if you're intentionally trying to change or manipulate or campaign towards, you should know this information. And once you do, how do you use it? Well, the only thing that's changed from the time he wrote the book till now, literally the only thing that's changed is the amount or the way that media is consumed. So when he wrote the book, the media was the radio, some television. Most people didn't have one yet. Posters, your local government signs on the wall, downtown, that type of stuff. And now we all hold in our hand essentially a receiver to consume media at all times.
And a producer, right? Like anyone can be that now, which I think is probably good because when you had just 5 news channels and posters, like who has access to the media? I mean, it's just a few central groups, but now everyone can be their own, outlet, I suppose, their own content producer. So the freedom is nice, but then it is potentially the case that intellectual dishonesty increases as well.
Yeah, so you would think that with everybody having their opportunities now to put their own views out there, wouldn't you think that they would be more unique? Like, if back in the day there was only 5 news channels, right? Or let's just say there was 2, right? For all intents and purposes, there's 2 views. These are your views. We're going to just keep putting them out there. These are the experts. We're going to keep telling you what they are. These are your views. These are your views. These are your views. Like, you're a Republican, that means you believe in X, Y, and Z. You're a Democrat, that means you believe in X, Y, and Z. These are your views, right? But now that everybody can kind of say like, hey, like I'll give you the example that I use all the time, right? Like if you're a Republican, you're supposed to be like fiscally conservative, right? You don't want to spend a lot of money on the government. You don't want to spend a lot of money on social systems, but you also gotta believe in what side do they believe in on abortion? Abortion can't happen. Illegal, right?
Yeah.
So if you like, these are your views. Here you go. These are all wrapped up for you. You get to be in this tribe. If you choose this tribe, these are your views now.
Right.
Go, right? And the opposite is on the other side. But like people like me specifically, I don't fall. I don't fall. That's not my tribe, you know. But it's not the views that I have. And everybody has this opportunity to kind of say like, no, hey, I'm not in on that. But what happened? But why don't we? Why aren't we like talking about how, no, actually, I'm much more like these people over here in this area, and I'm much more like these people over here in this area, and I'm much more like these people over here in this area. Well, that's not happening. It's like you said, we're more lonely, we're more divided, we're still only seeing the same rhetoric.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I have a couple of thoughts on that. We are definitely more lonely, I tell you. Like even myself, I feel lonely. So a good amount of time, and I have plenty of like decent connections, right? But I don't know, it's the phone, it's the information, it's the fact that, what they say that we check our phones 205 times a day.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's incredible. And the average time spent on our phones, you ready for this? 8 hours and 60 minutes or something like that. 8 hours a day. Isn't that crazy? Just on your phone.
Is that like looking down at it, or is that like having the screen on, or like?
I think it's like screen time in general.
But even if that's 60-40, just the screen on and you're not looking at it, still it
is crazy. And what that does is Arthur Brooks, he lectures on, I think meaning and purpose and that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, he suggests that the more that we engage in those, the sources of information, the more our brains actually activate that left side of the hemisphere, that logical thinking. And so we reduce complex problems to how to.
Say that again. Help me understand.
So we have our right side of the brain, which is associated with like creativity, like faith and meaning and complex problems. Complex problems being the ones that don't actually have a solution, perhaps.
Okay.
Right. The complex problems of like, why are we here? Right. There is no solution. You're never going to figure it out. You have to choose something to believe in, and that's like just about as good as it's ever going to get, probably. Left side is more analytical. It's like, I can solve, I don't know, my AC breaks. I can go on YouTube and kind of probably figure it out. Right.
Sure.
It doesn't actually require a whole lot of me to get in there and be creative. It requires me to find an answer. And so this like incessant use of the phone and information sources keep our brain in left side mode, just kind of activated all the time. And so we reduce complex problems, these problems of relationship or meaning, whatever. We reduce those or shift those, maybe well said, to logical problems. How do I actually go about solving my marriage? How do I go about solving my career meeting? I go to my job, I don't love it. Then how do I solve that? Well, it's going to be, go on YouTube and go Indeed, and then do this and then do that, get that certification. But it never really, you never really say, well, what is it that I actually want to do? What is important to me? What are my values? Right? Like these kinds of things that kind of seem obvious when you say them, but our brains are just so active and, in that kind of like problem solving mode. And we have so many problems, right? I mean, this is one we bring up, the fact that like we feel pretty lonely. So what's the solution? Well, you do this and you do that, but that's not actually, it's not a solution. It's a complex problem, and complex problems require you to be creative, right? You're right. We don't have like new ideas either. In fact, people have argued that there are no new ideas and that they just don't exist. And I, I've that one I've been struggling with. I think that's like a Nietzschean kind of idea, that there aren't really things that are new. And I struggle with that because I don't want to believe that. I want to believe that even some of our ideas, I want to believe that they're novel. But I tell you, the more that I read, especially some older stuff, the more I'm like, God, dang, that one I thought I made up, but no, I didn't make that one. Oh, that one too. And I'm like, I'll get into like a new kind of like philosopher or something. I'll be reading about his ideas. I'm like, wow, this sounds really good. And then the conclusions are like very similar to us, like similar ideas that I thought like I was super pumped about, like thinking about. Like, dang it! I wonder why this guy sounded so good. Nietzsche even said that you can't take anything from a book that you don't already know. And I had to think about that for a little bit, and I think that's true, right? I don't think that we take new idea. I don't think we read a book and get a new idea. I think we just kind of we take what we already know. Right. Even if it's like a deeper truth.
Yeah. I ultimately knowing and being able to act on, we talk about this all the time. It's like the book helped you to reinforce it. Maybe the book helped you to recognize it more often or better, or articulate it differently. Yeah. That's what it did. It didn't give you, it could have offered you a new perspective, but if you weren't ready for it, you would have missed it, glossed right over it, went right over your head.
Totally.
So I guess I understand what he's saying there.
Yeah, I mean that's what we are tasked with right now, is taking these ideas that again have been said 1,000 different ways, but finding a way that finding our way to say that and connecting to that in our way. And it's great when you can use whatever processes are used to like make and articulate the new idea and package it a little differently. This is hence why Bernays, it's exactly what he's making the point of. It's like package things in a certain way, and here you go.
And then deliver it, yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that we are increasingly lonely. They know that loneliness is associated with a 30% increased risk of heart disease.
From a nutrition standpoint, or from a depression, lack of movement?
Yeah, I guess I don't necessarily know how they come to those data points, but I would imagine questionnaires, and they then follow these people across time. The people who've reported higher amounts of loneliness are 30% more likely to have cardiovascular disease and all sorts of other kinds of diseases. And it's likely not that. It's not the simple, like, okay, if you're lonely, you're going to die, right? Like, it's probably like loneliness leads to this, leads to that, leads to this, leads to that, right, associated with all these different other kind of variables. You're less likely to care for yourself, whatever it might be. Your mood's going to be down. And then, heart disease kind of risk goes up, or whatever other disease. But I think that it is the case that we do feel more lonely. But point being is that we really shouldn't, because we have so many good people. Everyone around the world is so cool and so great. And, when you actually come together in a group, it often feels pretty easy when there's something to share there. But we just don't do it. We don't make time for it.
Yeah. The more I keep thinking about this, is that I keep thinking about your quote, right? Is the hardest prison to escape from is the one that you don't know you're in. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but like, what if the phone is the prison?
I think it is. Yeah.
It's like, it's captured your attention. It's holding it wherever it's telling you to, wherever it wants. And then it knows you so well because you've told it through your behavior with it. It's telling you exactly what is going to keep your attention. It's not telling you what you want to hear. It's not telling you the truth. It's telling you the most charismatic ideas around the topics that you find interesting, mm-hmm. on both sides, in order to hold you. And it's holding you. And it's holding you to the tune of, you're sitting in a room with family, people that you should feel really close to, and you're sitting on your phone watching your YouTube, watching your reels, watching your quote unquote everything, your phone, sitting next to somebody else who's doing the same thing. You're having dinner with your spouse and you're looking at your device. And, you know, what did you say, 205 times a day?
205 times a day, yeah.
Right. So what would you be doing if you didn't have the phone? Like most people can't even answer that at this point. Like, what would you be doing? Would you be talking to your significant other? Would you be searching for something? Would you be reading a book? Would you be out looking? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but
even just being there. But when like someone's on their phone, it's kind of like they're not even there. What's the point?
Right. Yeah, you're not present. It's hard to be. It's easy to be lonely when the people around you aren't present, or when you're not present.
Right. So yeah, something to consider. I personally have been doing my best to stay away. I just, not to mention too, I mean, if you want the logical approach to this, is that there's nothing good on there. There's nothing remotely profound. You don't learn anything. It doesn't actually do much for you. GPS is like, honestly, the best, the best thing that the phone can do. Everything else is like, I don't know. It's like, I find it more and more repulsive. I get on there and I like my default mode network brings me to an Instagram reel or something. And I'm watching this. I'm like, this is it's like repulsive. It's disgusting. Like I'm disgusted by it. So,
I can't stop doing this. What is going on?
Yeah. And it's like, and now it's all, and this is, we'll wrap it up. But yeah, there's just the AI talk too. You go to a reel and it's like, you're not feeling lonely. It's actually, It's like, okay, all right, we're done here. Yeah. I'm okay. Well, I'm also with the AI talk.
Oh, I know. I think we'll get into the AI talk next in the next episode because I know it's interesting to you, and we have some areas where we agree and some areas where we disagree on this one. But ultimately, guys, the answer to the question is no. We're truly not. Like, get out there and see people, meet people, talk to people, and recognize that even if you are on the opposite side of one or two issues or things that might never come up in your entire world, that we're not that different. We're all looking for the same stuff. And then it boils down to the easy stuff, right? We're all looking for purpose, and we're all looking to have people around us that are good people. We're all looking for more time, some more freedom. So don't believe everything you see on your phone. All right. Well, thank you for listening. We'll catch you all next time, and we have some pretty cool stuff coming up in the next month or so. So be on the lookout for some pretty interesting stuff coming up soon. Talk soon.
Thanks.